The Bison come up short once again to the Jackrabbits. A full recap from Sioux Falls, and it's my birthday. What a better way to celebrate. Hot Mike starts right now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the old man edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, and Inforum.com. Back in the saddle, back in studio here. I just left the WDAY parking lot about, 9 hours ago. Back from Sioux Falls. And sources indicate to WDAY that it is, in fact, my birthday today. So we are closer now to, thank you, the half-century mark than I was yesterday. That's scary. There's no other way to sugarcoat that. But it's exciting. The thought, and we're working on it. I don't know if we're going to have my dad this week. We'll see. The being born in the middle of March and then the chosen job profession that I went with means there's literally never a time, especially I will ever be able to celebrate it actually on my actual day, which is fine. I've actually celebrated more birthdays in the recent years with Stacey Anderson than I have with my own family. Stace is like family, so I guess that seems fitting, but that's kind of apropos for what you have in the middle of March Madness. So welcome to our show, everybody. We got a lot to get to today. It is Wednesday. We have our Bison Media Zone. There's lots to unpack, obviously, from Sioux Falls. Dave Richmond's going to join us today. It is Wednesday. It's his final appearance of the season after the Bison were dismissed in the first round of the men's side. We're going to get to the women's championship game in just a moment. Apparently, I got an early birthday present from the Jets that Aaron Rodgers wants to be vice president. Why not? It's literally something every day with that team and that guy. He loves attention more than I do. It's just unbelievable. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I'm sure we will get to that later on in the show. We're on the doorstep of our final tournament weekend. The Class A coming to town here at the Dome. Class B at the Minot State Dome. We've got a really neat story we're going to check in later in our opening hour. We got a late addition to our show lineup. The Killdeer boys are off to the State A. They will be here later. They got here by virtue of a buzzer-beating win in Newtown, and it's the first trip in over 70 years to the state basketball tournament for Killdeer. Also, I didn't know this until about a month ago. They have a beautiful, brand-new gym that was hosting regional games this year. So we're going to visit about that coming up before we wrap up our first hour of the show. So lot to get to. We'll start watching this on the way home. Sorry, North Dakota Police. That we were streaming the Summit League Men's Championship game. South Dakota State and Denver. Denver, the 7th seed, who upset Kansas City in the opening round. Had a thriller with Omaha on Monday night. Got to last night, playing, again, not even virtual, a road game last night inside the Premier Center. 9,000 people there. You should have seen where people were parking to get in to the Premier Center last night. Facing South Dakota State, the Jacks trying to go back to the tournament for a second time in 3 years. Tommy Bruner, did he have one more ridiculous game in front of him? Well, it turns out this one was over early because that guy got going. William Kyle III with the hammer? Was this his last game in South Dakota? If he did, he went out with a bang. I mean, I don't know what you do to stop that. The spin and the flush. Jacks were up early on. I mean, again, there's no resistance there. I don't know what you do to try and stop this guy. We saw him do this in the regular season finale against the Bison at the Shack. Then you get Zeke cooking, and I can guarantee you that was his last game in South Dakota. He's going to have some major opportunities whenever the Jackrabbit season ends. Cans the 3 there. South Dakota State built a 20-point lead in this game. Another nifty dish there to Kyle, who got open. Denver made this interesting. They got it actually within 6, but the Jackrabbits win it 76-68 to clinch a 7th NCAA tournament bid. They're heading back to the NCAA tournament. They'll find out where and when they play on Sunday night, and we'll get to the latest projections here in a second. After the game, dear friend of me, friend of our show, SDSU head coach Eric Henderson, about the Jacks winning another Summit championship. We had it in there. Apparently we don't. But he was excited, I can tell you that, on them winning the title. And to say this, they went from 5-3 at the league turn to 7-1 down the stretch and win the championship by a couple of games. They finished 12-4, end up being a 2-game lead over Kansas City and UND to win, and they got it going. That game in Grand Forks where they won, Mayo went nuts in the second half, and the game here Captain Obvious came away thinking, all right, this is going to be a tough team to beat, certainly when they get to Sioux Falls, and nobody really pushed them. Not their game against Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts got up early in the quarterfinal round. Not on Monday night against St. Thomas. Heck, St. Thomas couldn't even get to 50 against South Dakota State. And then last night they handled Denver for a majority of that game. It got dicey at the end, but not to the point where I think anybody really sweated the fact that they were going to lose the game. As I sit here this morning at 9:07 a.m. Central Daylight Time, South Dakota State from Joe Lunardi is a 16 seed, so that's your reward. And we talked about this, that the winner of the Summit wasn't going to get higher than a 15. The Jacks, a 16 seed, facing number 1 overall seed Houston. Not a great draw. That game would be in Memphis to open up the NCAA tournament. Of course, selection show coming up 5 o'clock on Sunday on CBS. The other game yesterday, obviously, was the Summit League Women's Championship between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. And the Bison there for the first time. Talked plenty about it yesterday, finally breaking through and winning a semifinal game for the first time in 5 tries, and then facing Goliath in South Dakota State. The Bison hadn't beat the Jacks in 9 years, had lost 21 games in a row. They only had 2 wins against SDSU in its Division I history. All of that they were facing, and it was there for the taking, folks. If you didn't see it, we'll show you here now. This game was there for the Bison to win yesterday, especially how poorly SDSU started. Elle Evans, who was besieged by foul trouble on Monday, had a couple early baskets to give the Bison a 4-point lead. SDSU turned the ball over 8 times in the first quarter. This 3 from Madison Mathowitz made it a 5-point Jack lead, and the place you thought, all right, it's going to come alive. The Bison went 8 minutes without a point in the second quarter. That basket from Heaven Hamling right before the halftime buzzer cut it to a 2-point game. Avery Coonan, I'm telling you, folks, is going to be a stud. She had a great Summer League tournament. Rebound on the foul, put the Bison up by 2. Paige Meyer is a stud. She had 4 threes yesterday. That put the Jacks up by 3. They're up 5 here. Abby Schulte spins, and another buzzer-beating shot for the Bison. They go to the fourth quarter down 3. This was a critical stretch in the game. Jacks are up 3. Brooklyn Meyer scores in an and 1. That put SDSU up 5. They get up 6. Hamling goes on a mini 5-0 run, makes it a 1-point game. This was critical. Evans with a horrendous pass that Meyer picks off and scores. She had another turnover. Mesa Byam was big. She scores in an and 1. This is part of a 14-0 South Dakota State run. Tori Nelson in her final game in South Dakota drains a corner 3. That put the Jacks up 11, and that was the dagger there after that basket went in. The place was going hopping. Heaven Hamling checked out. You could see the emotions were overflowing. She wanted this so badly as the Bison fall 67-54 to South Dakota State. Hamling at her, we don't know if it's her final game, scored 16. Paige Meyer had a big game going for 18. Brooklyn Meyer 15-6. And the Jacks win for a 22nd straight time against North Dakota State. After the game, the emotions overflowing for Heaven Hamling.
We got down a little, but we fought back, and that's what NDSU basketball is about. We're fighters, and we don't quit. So when I made that shot, I was just like, hey, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but, you know, I'm so proud of everyone on our team.
And she wanted this so badly for 5 years to try and get her team to the precipice of this. And you're going to hear an interview later today in Bison Media Zone that I did with Matt Larson before the game yesterday. And I talked about it briefly on Hot Mic that I remember 5 years ago, I called Matt Larson because I had heard the rumblings were in the mix that they were going to make a move and move on from Maren Walseth. And that was about as low as things could be. The Bison the year prior had missed the Summit League tournament. They only took the top 8. NDSU was 9th. They didn't even make it there. That's how bad things were. So to see them have a chance, and they had a chance, but they had 3 spells yesterday where they went 3 minutes, 8 minutes, 3.5 minutes without a point. You can't have that against South Dakota State. And yet they still were in the game. The Jacks were they had 13 first-half turnovers. The window was open, and they could not shut it on SDSU. They let it open, and the Jacks will make you pay. And they did that yesterday in winning the game. And now they're off again to the NCAA tournament. 13th time for SDSU that they get to go to the dance. And for NDSU, and this is something we'll talk about later as well, because I have plenty of people ask me this, are they going to play? Is there a chance they can get in this new tournament? I'll give you some of the lowdown on that later on Bison Media Zone, because the criteria for it is tough. I would say it's a long shot is probably the best way to describe it. The WNIT certainly is a possibility, but remember, you have to pay to get into that. I think there's some hesitancy around that with the athletic department, at least as when yesterday at about 6 o'clock. We'll see if that changes. I do know that the 2 teams that finished behind the Bison, Oral Roberts and South Dakota, are going to go play. So it would look weird to me if the teams around them and the teams they finished ahead of are still playing and they're not. But I don't write checks. I don't I like to all the time, but I don't do that. So we'll see. All of that will come out Sunday. The WBIT, the Women's Basketball Invitational, that's the new tournament that's fully funded by the NCAA. They put out their brackets Sunday night. And then the WNIT will take the next 48. So the argument is, if you're not in the main 68 and then the next 32, that's 100 basketball teams. If you're not there, how good are you? I can push back on that, say, all right, well, they won 21 games, best season they've ever had. I think they'd like to keep playing. From the vibe I got visiting with a couple, I visited with Abby Schulte after the game. I think she certainly would like another game, and they'd have a chance depending on who they get paired up with, maybe to keep playing. We'll find out. We're going to keep on that. It's already 9:15. I don't want to keep Drew waiting, so we will set up our guest lineup here today. Drew Trafton will join us in our usual Wednesday time slot. We got lots to get to, unpacking all the NFL signings. He'll join us in just a few minutes. As I mentioned, we got a late addition to our show. Kildare boys basketball coach Jeremy Pruitt's going to join us at about 9:50. Their team is finishing up their walkthrough before they head out on the road. So he'll join us at about 9:50. And at 10 o'clock, Dave Richmond will join us as well to wrap things up. I know a frustrating end for the Bison men's basketball season. 3 straight losses, all by double digits, and some questions now heading into the offseason. Who's going to be back? Who may move on? I doubt Dave will answer any of that. I guarantee we'll get the, this is the era of college basketball we're in. Yes. But those conversations have likely already started, ongoing, or about to happen. The portal opens on Monday. So I would say buckle up for those of you that follow men's basketball, because I think we're going to have a bumpy next week when things open on Monday. So before we go to break, I had this sent to me yesterday, and this is pretty good. Our poll question today, you can vote at Hot Mike WDAY. I laughed at this. What would be the best birthday present for me for Happy 45? Would it be a Mets World Series win, something that hasn't happened since 1986? I remember it vividly still. I was 7, but I remember almost every inning of every game. A Jets Super Bowl win, which has not happened since 1969. That was before my time. I'm not that old. And with the news yesterday, that seems a remote possibility. Or a new set of mustard pants. I had 3 people ask me that in Sioux Falls. Where's the mustard pants? I did not bring them out. It's a Friday thing. It's only a Friday deal. But I'm sure my wife did not gift me any of those. Don't think that was high up on her priority list. So you can please vote. I'd love to know the results on that before we say goodbye. I've got my own birthday wishes for local sports. We're going to do that. We do that each time I can. We're going to do that later on in our first hour as well. So we'll take a break. Hot Mike off and rolling here on a busy Wednesday. We're back right after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV, and Inforum.com.
FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
All right, Drew Trafton. Good morning.
Hey.
How are you, Bubba? What's going on?
I appreciate the invite on your birthday. Well, this happy birthday.
Thank you.
I did vote in the poll
Oh,
question
man.
already. If you were like 95 or something like that, I think maybe I would consider giving you a World Series or a Super Bowl victory, but you've got plenty of time for that.
That's not going to happen.
So I sided with the mustard pants because
Courtney will not have you thrilled on that.
I think that was part of the intrigue on that option. I was like, that's a good one.
So there's almost a little hole starting in the knee, which means I can't wear them to work anymore, which is going to be devastating for everybody here.
Yeah. Well, we could patch them. Let's think of some complimentary patches. We could do like a nice green color to match the Bison aesthetic, or a maroon in case you're down in the cities for a Gophers game.
That will work too.
We've got options.
So literally, I figured when we left last week that NFL stuff's going to blow up, and it did.
Yeah.
At noon, my phone starts blowing up on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I look over and I see, okay, Cousins to the Falcons. Not surprised.
Yeah.
Then I saw the number, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right?
And I think for Viking fans, I even in the most ardent Cousins bobos, like, just it's okay. You do not want to go there.
Yeah.
Atlanta overpaid.
Yeah, they did.
$180 million.
You can't blame Kirk for taking that deal at all. But yeah, they overpaid it. And I'll tell you what, Monday at noon, I thought, okay, well, if Kirk's gone, we'll hear about this in like 30 minutes.
Yep. Which was about 8 minutes, right?
Well, I thought it was I think it may be an hour and a half in or something, because I ended up taking a nap. I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's going to stick around, because I thought that'd be for sure the first big domino to drop. And I woke up and there's that big number staring at you, and right away, yeah, exactly. Like you're like, okay, well, then the Vikings were never going to do that.
No,
and that's okay. And I think it kind of went as planned for a lot of people, thinking about what the Vikings were going to do long term at the quarterback position. Now this opens up the whole can of worms of do you now that this is your reality, do you just tear the whole thing down? I saw that report yesterday, and I don't know if there's any legitimacy to it at all, that the Bears had offered the Vikings or the Bengals had offered the Vikings a trade package for Justin Jefferson. That was multiple first-rounders and possibly a T. Higgins signing. And I was like, there's no way that is real, because of course, I think they would have jumped on that.
Yeah.
Because that's just too good of a deal to pass up, especially if Kirk's out the door.
The fact they went for Sam Darnold, which I have a personal connection as the former Jet quarterback. For the guy that on Monday Night Football told everybody he was seeing
ghosts out there. Yeah,
Belichick got to him that game. He's been better since obviously he left New York. I thought he was pretty good in Carolina.
He had some good starts in Carolina, that's for sure.
And obviously he was Purdy's backup this past year in San Francisco.
And he was serviceable.
What's the under-over on how many games he starts in 2024?
I can't imagine. And they gave him was $10 million, right? So that's not nothing. So that says that they're saying, hey, you could start here.
Yeah.
I've got to think they've got another plan, though, coming in. You've got to bring somebody in to at least compete with Sam Darnold. You're not.
They're obviously going to spend their first-round pick on a quarterback.
Yeah.
When do they hand the keys over to whoever it is? Is it 4 games, 5 games, 7 games?
Well, I think they probably look at the schedule and they pick their spot there. And is it like, hey,
I'll set it at
early October?
6.
Like you're gonna be turning it over. That makes sense to me as a good window. Like if your bye sets up early, maybe you use that game as or if
remember
if
they have a game in London this year.
So do you have that long travel gap? And that's where you install them after that, or I think that would make sense too. There's some natural spots in there where you do it,
but it makes the next 6 weeks, Drew. Just if you're a Viking fan, this is fun because now you're going to go. You're likely going to trade up. I can't imagine they're going to stay at 11. I
not
don't,
if you have a guy.
If you have the guy, if it's McCarthy, you think he's not going to get to 11, then you got to move to 5 or 6. This is fun now. The next 5-6 weeks will be really entertaining.
I was really perplexed because they did not have a representative there for Bo Nix's pro day yesterday, apparently.
I think personally there's more made of that than there isn't. Like, you remember the whole Trey Lance phenomenon. Remember the 49ers were not.
Right.
And then who came in?
Yeah.
Remember they worked him out twice privately, did Shanahan and John Lynch. So I'll always defer to that. I'm not necessarily who's there, it's who's giving the private workout with them.
Yeah, I just think, like, do you want you should be present at these things now. Even if it's just to have conversations with the other teams that are looking for quarterbacks, because those are your trade partners, potentially. So that's kind of where I was going there.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was a Vikings fan, I'd be super excited right now because Kevin O'Connell is your head coach. Like, this is kind of why you brought the guy in.
Yep.
Like, he's known for, like, dude works with quarterbacks, and you're getting a guy where they don't have bad habits yet. I mean, you get a clean slate on a quarterback that you can work with and potentially grow with. And loads of cap space coming up in upcoming years. Yep. I mean, this is a good spot to be in with one of the best non-quarterbacks, if not the best non-quarterback player in the league. That you're working on a deal.
So who's selling here? The Patriots need a QB. They're not going to sell, right?
They need a quarterback.
So they're going to stay at 3.
You got to think so.
The Cardinals are at 4.
I think that's who
the Chargers are at 5. I think they're a trade partner because they don't need a QB.
And the Cardinals, I think, are earnest in the idea that they're sticking with Kyler Murray.
The Giants are at 6. But that's the one you got to worry about. They have the Daniel Jones albatross that I think they're going to try and get out of.
And they brought in Drew Lock yesterday.
Oh, former Seahawk.
Former Seahawk and former Denver Bronco.
Yes.
And a lot of people laugh that off. But boy, I think there are a lot of people in the NFL that think that Drew Lock can start games.
So if you're Minnesota, then you're looking at four.
I think you have to go to 4.
4 or 5. You got to get there. If you think McCarthy is your guy.
And I don't think you want to go to 5 because somebody can jump you then to 4. So I don't think. I think you've got to go to 4.
So if you're
you've
doing
got
that,
to go to the Cardinals.
How many? What is that? It's this year's first, next year's first,
yep, at least,
and then
maybe
second.
Yeah. Or 2 seconds or something like that. I mean, it's a hefty price tag to move from 12 to 4.
So this is O'Connell and Adolfo-Mensah's job on the line. They got to get this right.
Yeah, you can't.
By moving on from Kirk, you got to get this one right.
If you put the capital up there that you're giving away, you're leveraging the future of your team to that degree. Because the only other way you're going to get draft picks back at that point is a massive trade for Justin Jefferson, and that's a franchise-defining guy. So I
now you got to pay JJ. You got to do that. You got to get that done now.
Have to. But who are you selling him? You're not selling him Sam Darnold. You're just not doing that. So I mean, like you've got
you
to
better not be
think of this, long term, and I mean. With the dearth of wide receiver talent that's allegedly in this draft and guys who are seeking trades now in like the realm of T. Higgins, like I don't know if this is the year to trade to Justin Jefferson.
How about your boys? Have they done much? Seattle done been?
No, they were in fact yesterday. They were one of 2 teams left.
I thought I saw that.
Making an outside free agent grab, and in the sense they grabbed Pharaoh Brown, a tight end depth piece behind Noah Fant, and then just a couple of minutes ago they went after Nick Harris from the Browns.
Okay.
I think he's a center/fullback, so another line depth piece there. And that's just their MO. They don't. They really don't make big day 1, day 2 free agent splashes. They like to kind of spread their money out and. I think that's an okay philosophy for them, and as long as they draft well, I think they'll be in an okay spot.
You are a great political mind. I don't say that in jest because you love it and you do that for us here, WDAY. I saw the story yesterday from the New York Times, and I laughed, and I'm like, only with this franchise and this guy would this happen.
My mind keeps going back.
Is this legit? Like, is RFK Jr. really looking at A-Rod to say, like, grooming him like, I want you to be my vice presidential candidate?
Yeah.
And he's listening.
Apparently, the report is that he's very receptive to this idea. I think that the reason you would do that as an RFK Jr. from a political standpoint is that gives you that puts an immense spotlight on your campaign. And a kind of a curiosity and an oddity that gives you relevance through October and November when you're not going to be able to spend money. I mean, just the idea of an NFL starting quarterback on a presidential ticket. From September onward, from August onwards, really gives you daily exposure that you wouldn't get otherwise. And I'm sure that these guys are under no illusion that they could win, but they're going to be doing it to draw votes. From somebody. And I really don't have a good sense of who you're drawing votes from. I mean, imagine it's both political parties. I mean, obviously they have, stances on certain issues, especially in when it comes to vaccinations.
Certainly in the vaccine,
like that.
in the vaccine world, absolutely. And Rodgers has been
Aaron
vocal on that
Rodgers
every time over.
Is very conspiratorial in some of his beliefs, and so is RFK. But beyond, and I don't mean to generalize here, like the podcast bro culture. I'm not really sure. And that is not an insignificant number of people. It's certainly enough to sway an election. That would be a major. Major thing. I just keep thinking, though, like, wasn't it Aaron Rodgers a few months ago who said distractions need to get out of the building?
Yes.
If you're running a presidential campaign from And I don't know what the NFL would think about that or how that would
in
work.
New York City.
Yeah.
It's
the top media market. It's a genius move.
They're going to win 7 games next year. I'm going to tell you that right now. All this hope to think that they're going to burst through. They're going to win. They traded for them. They're going to win 7 games. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be 7-10 next year.
It's a really interesting, and one thing to think about. Like, I don't think from an electoral map standpoint, you're going to be, California is pretty safe, as a Democrat state. New York's pretty safe.
Yeah.
New Jersey's pretty safe. But the states that are going to decide this election are the Midwest states, the upper Midwest states, Michigan and Wisconsin. Does that move the needle at all there? Like, potentially. Like, I don't, that's where it's like really, curious, about how this sways the election.
There's a lot of things I was thinking I was going to talk about. This is 9 million on my list of I thought we'd be talking about on my show.
It's so absurd that it has to be true. I mean, it really is.
That's why they're the Jets. That's why they're the Jets. I swear. It's great to see you. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks
all right?
for having me. Happy birthday.
Appreciate it, bud. There he is, Drew Trafton, joining us each and every Wednesday. We'll take a break. We come back. I have my own local birthday sports wishes I want to see happen in the next year. One of them actually came true last year, so let's see if we can get a couple. We'll do that. Hot Mic rolls on this Wednesday. We're back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on. Going to visit with Greg Pruitt, Killdeer head boys basketball coach, here in just a few minutes. They get set for a trip to the state tournament. Got a bunch of emails coming in, some related to the topic we were just on, some other ones here. This is a good one. I wanted to read this one. I know the venue, Dom, is great in Sioux Falls, but this tournament needs to be moved. It's such a glaring advantage for South Dakota State. They could just as well move it to Brookings. It needs to be moved to a neutral location. I think the Minneapolis area would be a better location to address that. Sioux Falls is far from neutral. It's not going anywhere. You saw it there. If you were to look at different mid-major venues around the country, there is none other than the Missouri Valley that gets that kind of, or the Summit League, that gets that kind of attendance. I took a photo. I posted it on Twitter on Monday. I went up to the upper tank at the Premier Center, 12:30 on a Monday, and there's 8,000 people there. Now, granted, it was South Dakota State and South Dakota playing women's basketball. Women's basketball had 8,000 people there on a Monday at 12:30. That's why it's not going anywhere. It does an amazing job. They make a ton of money. The league makes a ton. It'd be hard-pressed for me. I understand the comeback, I would say, get better. Get better. Bison have won down there before. Dom, I haven't been able to listen all week, so maybe you cover this, but why were the Bison women on TV yesterday? Really frustrating. There was a mid-afternoon game and not on TV. It was on TV. It was on CBS Sports Network yesterday. I know that was a hot topic for some that I spoke with when we were down there. The fact that it's not as readily available as ESPN, clearly. I asked Josh Fenton on that on Monday. If you missed that, you can go back and listen to the podcast or watch our show at Inforum.com. I asked him that directly about the pushback. He gave me, I would say, the company line on that CBS Sports Network is in more homes or as many homes as ESPNU is, which I think that's where the women's championship game was held forever. It's clearly not more homes than ESPN2 or ESPN. I think the streaming component, you all know where I stand on that with the Summit League Network because it affected our bottom line in a large way because we weren't allowed to stream any basketball games or volleyball or soccer, baseball, softball, you name it. Did not work as well as they had hoped. And the availability of ESPN Plus is universal. I mean, everybody, I I know there are grandparents I know that have it to watch games. That's the rub on it. And many told me I did not watch a single game this year because I don't have ESPN Plus. I didn't stream it. I didn't want to go and find it. So appreciate that. Okay, I want to do this quick. Because last year I did this. I have my birthday local sports wishes. One of them actually happened. So now I'm shooting for the stars here this year. So this is for my birthday for today, either local, regional, or at least tied to me sports wishes I'd like to see happen. First one, after our poll question, maybe this has no chance of happening, either a Mets or Jets playoff win over the next 365 days. Which one has a better chance of happening? The Mets already have their best pitcher hurt, which is great. We're 2 weeks away from the start of the season. The Jets quarterback wants to be the vice president. The next one I think has a chance of happening. The FCS championship game moving back to Saturday. Now, I love the fact that it's been on ABC the last 2 years on Sunday. Company man, that's been fantastic. But going up against the NFL on a Sunday, not great. Move it back to Saturday. You could still have it on ABC. I'm not convinced otherwise on that, Dan Margulis. Let's make it happen. The third one is a pipe dream, but I'm still going to put it out there. Extend the North Dakota high school basketball season by 1 week. 1 week, and we avoid what's happening this weekend. That you can put maybe the A in Fargo, and the B still has its own majestic grandeur weekend next weekend in Minot. And I know we've got spring sports practice already underway. It started on Monday, but why not? Don't give me that we got to start the spring sports season, and I look outside and we got no snow. It's coming back around. You know that. We're going to get bombed next year. Do that. Here's another pipe dream. NDSU football plays a Big Ten team. Can that happen? Can somebody in the Big Ten offices say, you know what? We still need 6 wins to make a bowl game. Why not we play that team from Fargo? They're down. They haven't won a championship in a couple years. Come on, Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern, David Braun. Give them a call. Rutgers. I'm not going to pick on the new 4 Big Ten schools. They're not going to do it. Who am I missing in the bottom of the Big Ten? Give them a call. Can we do that? Everybody that went to that Iowa game will not forget it. It was an awesome atmosphere. And granted, the Colorado game will be cool, but Maryland, how about them? They're not any good. You go to Washington, D.C. for a couple days. It'd be fun. Let's make it happen. Lastly, here's the ultimate pipe dream. A couple years ago on this show, we showed the video of my son already singing Go Cubs Go. Cut the deepest, because his mom is a Cubs fan. Can it happen that he cheers for my Mets? My dad's already got his claws into him that he likes the Yankees too. Is this what happened when I turned on my dad, that I was going to be a Mets fan? Jack Van cheer for the orange and blue. He loves Mr. Met. Every time he comes to the station, he loves the... Can we make that happen? There it is. Birthday wishes for the upcoming year. Like I said, I got one last year to go through. So I'm hopeful we can make it 2 for 2 here in 2024. There's a couple here that I know are pipe dreams aren't going to happen. So we'll look back a year from now, and we can laugh to see which one I got right, or any that came true. We'll break. We come back. We'll wrap up our first hour. Killdeer head coach Greg Pruitt will join us as the Cowboys get set for a monumental and historic state tournament trip. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after. Continues tomorrow. We'll bring you the Boys B and the Boys A quarterfinals from Minot and from Fargo. Simultaneous games happening. You can watch the B quarterfinals on WDAY tomorrow afternoon. The A quarterfinals will be on Extra, and then we flip it for the evening session, which should be fantastic. Looking forward to that. Really cool. We can get a quick guest in here before literally he's hopping on the bus for a long trip, but it's well worth it. For the first time in 7 decades, the Killdeer boys basketball team is playing at the state tournament after a thrilling win, which we're going to show you in a second. Head coach is Greg Pruitt, who joins us. Literally just got done with their walkthrough. They're hopping on the bus. Congratulations. The last couple days, can you just give us the synopsis of what the last few days have been like in your community?
One word, it would be overwhelming. I mean, it's, we went from the last second shot to celebrating, and the celebration hasn't stopped. And everybody's like, hey, have you been prepping for Kindred? And the honest answer is no. I mean, everyone's still celebrating. So it's just the community and the fan support and the people across Western North Dakota from all the communities. It's absolutely fabulous. So,
I mean, has everybody come out of the woodwork here over the last couple days?
Oh man, you said it. We actually went to the Hilltop Nursing Home and met a couple people, a couple athletes that were on that 1953 team. Wow. and to listen to some of their memories, and then to listen to some of the memories from their children, to just old sports fans in the community. I didn't realize, how many sports fans, basketball fans there were up here in the Cowboy country, but a lot of people have been waiting this for a long time, and it's just like you and I were talking earlier, Dom, if you had to write a script on a basketball story, this would probably be the one you want to write.
All right, so we're going to show everybody, for the people that missed it this weekend, of how you got to state on the game-winning shot from Jackson Reese. Tell me what you saw, where you were, and your reaction when the basket went in.
Well, one thing we talked about is, we knew Stanley was going to drop a pretty good play. We wanted to switch all back picks. We wanted to keep the ball in front of us. So they made a good play. They made that basket. We practiced multiple times that we didn't want to take a timeout in that situation. We wanted to go the length of the court because we knew that the worst thing could happen is we go into overtime, and we've been in overtimes this year. So we wanted to keep the ball in our hands and go the length of the court and get that shot up. And it just happened that Nakori got the ball up around the basket, and Jackson Reese, who puts himself in the right spot a lot of times, was there, and there was enough time for him to put it back. And from there, I still think there was some time on the clock. I was already running back to play defense, and I was people were like, you were running the opposite way of the fans. And I'm like, well, I was still trying to play defense with the team, but it was amazing. I mean, for the fans, they love it like that. For us coaches, we would like it, a little bit easier than that. But hats off to Stanley and their team. Unbelievable program. And then hats off for our boys just to have the awareness and basketball IQ. That's what we wanted to do at the end.
I got to give a shout out to a couple of your assistants. They still got a good vertical. They got off the ground. I'm watching the video. They got off the ground a little bit after the shot went in.
Well, that's what I said. I said, I just got a chiropractic adjustment for a lifetime there by Coach Harris. He's been in the program for 26 years, and I'm pretty sure he adjusted every bone in my body with a hug there at the end. But, yeah, it was epic. It was just unbelievable.
So your reward, as you mentioned, is the top team in the state who hasn't lost a game in Kindred. What do you think about tomorrow and this matchup tomorrow night?
Well, the cool thing about this is Coach Whale and I actually played basketball together in the 90s.
Is that right?
State. So
wow,
yeah, so
that's
we're both
fantastic.
Bismarck State. Yeah, we played for Buster Gillis, and we have a good relationship. We played Kindred early in the year, and we played with them for a half. They're very talented. Very talented team. Number one team for a reason. We want to go in and we just want to show people that what we're about. how hard we play, and if the ball happens to fall in the right place, the right time, hopefully we can make a great game of it. But the one thing I really want to stress is, 71 years in the making. A lot of times you have to go there and make great memories, and people get caught up with the wins and losses at the state, but we're there. I mean, we're one of the top 8 that got there, and that's meaningful to us. We're a very young team. We only have 2 seniors on the team. All of our starters are underclassmen. So I told the boys it's about experience right now. Go. You've never been there before. Make some great memories. And I got the honor to be to play in the 1992 state tournament. I was the starting point guard for Elgin. I said, and I still live on those memories. So it's something that's meaningful, and it's just a lot of fun.
Before I let you go, I got to ask you about your role, the Little Buddy Foundation, and how personal this is to you.
Well, I'll try to talk a little bit about it without having tears. But the Little Buddy Foundation, those that know Coach Don Meyer, when you talk about basketball career and wins, the accolades that he has, from the John Wooden Award to ESPY Award, the basketball side of things, one of the greatest ever. But what people don't realize about Coach Meyer is the life lessons he taught off the court and how caring he was for individuals. I had the honor to make a great friendship with him. And before, he passed away, him and I talked about his prosthetic that he had. And after he passed away, with the blessing from Carmen, I wanted to keep his legacy living off the court. I wanted the people to realize that, hey, this is a guy that basketball was meaningful to him, but life was more meaningful, that there's more to life than basketball. So I started the Little Buddy Foundation, where we gift prosthetics to children every year. I started by donating my first basketball check, and everybody knows that basketball coaches are millionaires. We make a ton of money, but it wasn't much money. I think it was around $5,000. And that $5,000 helped us get Jacob Peterman, the young man from Wahpeton, his first prosthetic. Wow. And from there, it's just grown. I mean, it's been crazy, the amount of support. We gifted 2 children this year, the year 24 recipients, Kyler Venable from Miles City, Montana, and Josie Green from Iowa, Cascade, Iowa. So Little Buddy's growing all across the United States. But it's meaningful to me because I don't have any children. I got a wonderful wife. I want to be like Coach Meyer, not so much on the court with the accolades that he has, but when my time's done on this wonderful earth, I want to be like him and learn to serve others like he taught me.
Hear, hear. That's fantastic. I really appreciate the time. Safe travels. Good luck tomorrow, and thanks so much for doing this morning, okay?
I appreciate it, sir.
There he goes, Greg Pruitt, head coach of the Killdeer Boys. They match up with Kindred. First trip in 71 years to the state tournament. Good luck to them. We're overdue. We'll break. We come back. Dave Richmond on the other side of the break as the Bison season is over. What's ahead for North Dakota State men's hoops? We'll get into that when Hot Mic Hour 2 begins after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic on the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
I think just like Dom's outfit, they're not always pretty. Sometimes they're really ugly. But just been all over Amazon and just about every site looking for these mustard pants.
And my wife will tell you, she wants to burn mine.
I played defense in that first half like Dom transitions to you after the game. It's way too long, way too lazy, but... You got all these answers. I'm going to bring you over and have you do our non-conference schedule.
I'd love to. I'd love to go to Grand Canyon,
I would
man.
love,
hey,
well, you can come with. That's not the thing. The game coming with isn't the issue. It's getting the games.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if he knows this. There's no better treat for me on my birthday than I actually get the head men's basketball coach from North Dakota State to do a segment today. Did you know that? Today is my birthday.
I am very, very disappointed in myself, and not just because of the result on Sunday, but like I'm a huge birthday guy. I have a birthday app, so it's a great way to stay in touch with people and connect. And this has got to be the best birthday present you're going to get all day, isn't it?
I thought that, or you would deliver a new pair of mustard pants for me. But one or the other, right?
You know what's starting to become more and more disappointing is how do we in Hot Mic get gear that just reflects the Jackrabbits? It just screams like blue and the gold, and I'm just like, hey. Okay, now I know why he crushes me all the time, because he's a true Jackrabbit fan.
Wow, there it is.
I'm kidding.
There we go. Well, you know what? It's a good segue. I know how much affinity you have for Eric Henderson, but how much did that eat you up last night to see them win?
Yeah, it's such a fine line, and it's so interesting. You know, I sit there with my family last night and watch it, and there's clearly just the competitive animosity of the Jackrabbits, and you know, their passionate fan base in Sioux Falls and all that creates. I had no skin in that game last night, and congratulate both of those teams. Eric is he's a dear friend, but it's also South Dakota State. They're not dear friends too. So I'm really going to just stay neutral on this one and throw this thing right down the middle, Dom. Not answer your question like I'm good at.
You're fantastic at that. Just say, hey, Hendo, go ahead, get a new job, and then you can cheer for him, right? Is that the deal?
Yeah, but also, I love Hendo, but I love beating his ass too. And so if he wants to stay there and do that, I don't know what our record is against each other. Obviously, we split this year, and we got them 2 of 3 last year. And
you know the record. It sounds like you know it right off the top of your head.
Yeah. 3 years ago, they got us all 3 times or whatever it was. But, you know, I would say that about you. I would say that about my father. You know, people that I enjoy, but I'm not going to shy away from competition. I'll tell you that.
Tell me, for the league, it's likely, Dave, maybe a 15 or a 16, which is tough. We've talked about this on and off air. How difficult is that, knowing they're going to get a really, really good team in the tournament next week?
Well, I know it's one of your favorite topics, and I think it's something that's going to jump into my mind. But that's the new challenge for us coaches in the league. That's the new challenge for us as a league, as we get the commissioner and ADs involved, is to create better options and avenues in the non-conference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, you know, I'm going to have our staff dive into and just see what our records we're, you know, overall road games, high major games, how many number of home games, you know, that we were playing before we got into late December. And I think that has an effect on, obviously it has an effect on seeding now for South Dakota State, make no mistake about it. But I think it affects sometimes your better teams that are getting strung out in those months.
Right.
And these are kids; they need to gain some swag and some confidence into some things. And I look at a team like St. Thomas that you know, because they're transitioning, we're able to get some certain types of games and some things like that. That you're able to build some confidence. You're able to build some momentum, and you know, I think we're playing a decent brand of basketball, and you know, we're getting beat at Illinois State. We're getting beat at Southern Illinois. Right. And at some point, you need to have some results.
Well, and I look at it too, and this is a whole other topic. I don't want to go too far down the road, but Indiana State has a dynamite year. We talked about them earlier this season. They lose in the Valley Championship, and now are sweating this whole week. But they won 28 games. That should be rubber stamp they're in, and yet they may not make it in.
I know, and again, just with our season, Dom, with the transformational times and everything, like, you know, and I had this conversation with Matt Larson and Todd Phelps last week. Like, I think it's a responsibility to all of us, and I'm talking about myself, to we can't sound like we're complaining.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we sign up for. This is something that we get to do, yet it's certainly challenging. And there's challenging times in a lot of things, and I think it's challenging to sit here and you look at a group like Indiana State and you know the things that they did this year, and to think, man, they're not going to get the opportunity. But I just think there's so much of this at so many levels that's driving everything. And you look at the NIT and
totally,
and, you know, and all that does Indiana State, and now I would assume just based on RPI and net, they'll get into that way, but there's no consolation that they won their league and they would have gotten in that anymore. You know, those are that's the life of the mid-major, and you know, it's a chair that I choose to sit in. It's a chair I get to sit in, and with that just becomes some challenges.
Yep. I do want to ask though. Last night I watched that Oakland is going back to the tournament and the Horizon. They've been gone for the Summit for a bit, but Greg Kampe is still going. I know how much he loved coming to Fargo. I love how much the students love getting on him. What, you got a good Kampe Oakland story after seeing them win last night?
You know, Campy's the best. You know, I mean, he's just so. You know, you hear stories of him going bowling in the morning during the season and laid back. And, you know, as a guy that's been at North Dakota State for a while, you know, like I can appreciate his loyalty.
40 years, man. 40.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah. And not only his loyalty, but until this year, there's been some toughness. There's been some tough times.
Yep.
But, you know, they've stuck to it and it's paid off. And I think there's going to be more and more of those challenges at mid-major with the influx and more probably the outflux of talent that happens in the springs now. But I'm honestly, I'm great. I'm extremely happy for Campy. You know, he goes about it probably a little differently, but he's always got a transparent, honest voice to him. You know, I remember, you know, the memory wouldn't be a good one for him, but obviously I remember what he shot and they had us dead in the water that year as well. They were Benson win NBA and the point guard and the wing, and I mean they were loaded. They're a really good team.
They had it was Jonathan Jones for a while, then Keith Benson, then it was Reggie Hamilton. I mean they rolled those three guys for 3 straight years. Like holy cow, this team is just rolling.
And he stole Reggie from the league, right from Kansas City. Yeah.
That's their first time going, though, since 2011, which goes to a little bit. Yeah,
is that really?
They had not been since 2011 when they were still in the Summit, when they won back-to-back in Sioux Falls with Hamilton that last year. And that goes to your point, though, that how many other schools would have maybe moved on, and they didn't do that, which is doesn't happen these days anymore.
Yeah, I think there's so much. Like, listen, at the end of the day, it's my charge, it's Campy's charge. We got to win games, no question about it. But I think there is also an understanding, a process. There's a lot more than just that goes into it. You know, the type of reflection of the team and the community. You know, how things are getting taken care of academically. You know, just all those things. The support from a lot of levels, and like I said, I'm really happy for Greg. I am. I don't know anything about his team, and maybe they were, I don't know, a bunch of bad kids. I don't know that, but I'm happy that, you know, they've been loyal to him. I'm happy to see him have that success and get rewarded this year.
I know a lot of people. Your comment you made after the game when I asked you about this season, you said you had a hard time putting your arms around the team. It's a couple days since. Can you expound on that a little bit, just about what happened this season and why things didn't go the way you wanted them to go?
Yeah, and you sit there, and I'm on the bus on the way home on Sunday night, and Luke sits behind me, and I think that's what gives me the purpose behind what I do. Some of these answers that you want so dearly, you're just never going to have them. You're never going to fully understand them. You know what I meant. You know, I think sometimes you know that. You just don't have this. And sometimes you just have this and everything takes care of itself. And I felt like there was just the inconsistencies. And it was inconsistencies with X or Y or Z. And we were just never able to pinpoint it. You have some conversations with some guys now. And again, like there's nicks, bumps, bruises, and sicknesses going on. Maybe to a level that I'm proud of, like we have a toughness level in our program that I didn't understand at the time, and you know the guys are more transparent after the season because they'll tell you things like that. Bottom line is, Dom, anything is an excuse. We've created some tremendous expectations based on what we've done in the Division I transition area, or the from 2 to 1 jump. In particular, the last 5 years of what we've done, this is a place that has high standards and expectations, and so you expect these things. And the reality of it is, it doesn't always happen, and it's unfortunate. The other teams have good coaches, good players, but make no mistake, like we're extremely. Sun came up on Monday, barely, and I know myself, I'm very motivated to get back to Tuesday night and. You know, you just the thing, like, and this is selfish, right? But it still beats in my head like 2020 and now being able to take that team to the tournament and then getting back there than the last 3 years, before this year. And again, I say that nothing more as a challenge, as someone that's challenged and very motivated to figure this out.
Let's break. We'll come back a few more minutes with Dave to talk about what's ahead. No, it's going to be a busy few weeks, and looking ahead to the off. Welcome back, everybody. A few minutes left here in our. Is this our season finale? I mean, when am I going to see you again now since basketball's over, huh? When are we going to do this again?
I think that's the beauty of a birthday present. Like, it's not as great if you get to see me all the time. I mean, that's the surprise.
Oh, man. Everybody loves this Wednesday deal.
Come in studio one time.
We're going to do that this summer. Absolutely. I will block out the whole show if you want.
I want to flip the chair. Like, I want to sit there, and you can sit on the other end. And
that would be riveting television, I think. Yeah, yes.
Absolutely.
We'll do that this summer. We'll make that happen. Absolutely. Obviously, that is not where you want to end. I know that. You know that. People watching our show know that. So what has to happen? I know this is a loaded question. What has to happen for you to get back to Tuesday? How do you do that?
The recipe is it's simple but complicated, right? Like, and it goes back to, I remember probably the last time we were in this situation 5-6 years ago, and it ended too quick. And I think it screams talent. You need talent. Well, you need yes, you do. Absolutely, make no mistake. But you need the right talent. You need a combination of character, talent, and experience. And, for whatever reason, we just weren't able to find that mix. And answers that I will continue to try to find to help us make better, and so we don't repeat this. But like we talked about early in the show, some things that we'll probably never have the answers to. These are 18 to 22, 23-year-old young men. This is what makes the job challenging, exciting, frustrating, all the things. But I look at the teams, and again, Dom, like, let me staple this, let me plaster this. Dave Richmond never wants to make an excuse. And so this isn't coming across, but we've got to find a way to get old and stay old. And when we get old and stay old, we need that experience to have some leadership values to it too, where this isn't Dave Richmond all the time, exhausting my voice and in those things, and have a player-led program.
Yep.
And I think there's a fine line of combination, with those things. And obviously you can read through the lines.
Yeah,
I don't think we can consistently had enough of that this year.
And you look at that, obviously, for people that know and people that follow, the portal window opens Monday. Are you starting that? Have you already had that with your team? And are those happening? Or when do those happen?
Yeah, it's really a fine line. Like, obviously, every year we want to have season-ending evals of everything.
Right.
But some are happening slower than others. They're still I said it and I've learned it this year, like a wise man avoids all extremes. And I need to listen to myself say that from a standpoint of these are highly emotional times, frustrating times, disappointed times. And so you need to step back and you need to look at bodies of work. Someone that's been here for a year, 2 years, and not just a snapshot of everything, and make sure that this time next year we're having a different kind of conversation.
We know you have 3 incoming freshmen on your team. I know you can't give away the kitchen sink, but what are your offseason? What are your plans, I guess, for adding to the not knowing? Let's just say everybody returns in a pie in the sky kind of thought. What are you hoping to add in the offseason?
Well, I mean, listen, it's very fair to say that besides Bowden and Ryan, we're going to have other scholarships available.
Mm-hmm.
I'm well aware, like Tim Polasek said to you, yes, in his conversations, those things. And again, like what I and we need to focus on is the right people. And what you need to compartmentalize is fall recruiting and spring recruiting. And I would love nothing more than in the fall to continue to go out and get the right upper Midwest high school kids from the right family. In the spring, if someone leaves, if someone's asked to leave, things like that, we need to make sure that they're leaving with some experience under their belt post high school, that we need to make sure that, again, talent, character matches, but they also have some experience to them, some maturity to them, some leadership skills to them too, to blend that all together.
See, I had numerous emails. I'm sure you got your inbox was filled. I had a couple texts and emails that Dave's got to change his approach to the portal. How would you respond to that?
We always look at the portal. We look at junior college, we look at, but you have to be careful of staring and getting caught up in the sun. And I mean, like, some of the guys are in the portal for a reason.
Right.
They lack character. They lack winning skills. They want more at a place that's very, and so, yeah, I mean, but I look at South Dakota State. They won the league. They're not littered in the portal. There was a stat, Jones told me, he goes, Coach, you're going to love this. The teams that have X amount of transfers or more aren't even close to being on the bubble. And that's all the way down. Like, I love that people can give me their advice. I love that people can criticize me, right? Like, that's the big boy pants that I put on every day. And I'm not saying I don't hear it or, you process some of it, but we know damn well what works. It's been working. Got sidetracked a little bit this year. I will fully admit that. But we need to make sure that it fits at North Dakota State. Do I say that at every job that are here? But it's a niche. It's a fit, and it's worked. And again, that's why a wise man avoids all extremes.
Before I let you go, the upcoming schedule here, you have the Minnesota Boys State Tournament. I know you always have some feelers out down there. What's the next couple weeks, month look like for Bison basketball?
Yeah, as our former junior college coach Luke Strage said, every day is a new day in the spring.
Yes.
And that can mean good. That can mean,
no doubt,
more challenging. Everything like that. The fun of it. Luke and I are going to get in the car tomorrow and go see Andy Stefanowicz play in the Minnesota playoffs. It's a time when you think like recruiting, but yet there's not a whole bunch of things going on either. A lot of teams like us are done playing.
Yep.
And they're certainly continuing to watch some high school tournaments and identify some young kids. There's some junior college things going on. To the portal question, the portal doesn't even open until the 18th.
Right.
Right. So there's some of those, but I think we've got to make sure we're patient. We're not settling. And I think sometimes you get rushed and you get panicked and you settle on the wrong things.
I say this.
It's like when you see those mustard pants in the morning and you settle on putting them on.
I say this with all sincerity. I think our viewers really enjoy having you weekly come on, and your perspective and honesty with it throughout, especially this season. I know was trying at times, and I always appreciate it because I respect our friendship and our ability to work together. So thanks for doing this, and I know we'll do this again sometime soon, okay?
Dom, in all sincerity, I mean the exact same thing. You become a professional, a professional colleague, a friend, and what Bison, and I know you got to go, but just hear me out. I know what Bison basketball is trying to do in creating an environment worth repeating. We need everybody. And this year, you guys stepped up and helped us. Your support means a lot. And I'm going to continue to challenge you, our listeners, myself, and all of us to continue to do those things. It takes all of us. And again, we appreciate you, WDAY, and everything that the partnership entails.
So when do I expect the check from NDSU about getting $5,000 to UND for the UND game? Is that in the mail?
It's not already there?
I must have got lost in the mail. So
I think I got a gift certificate to, that place.
Okay. Great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for the time. I'll talk soon, all right?
Appreciate you, Dom.
There he goes, Dave Richman, NDSU men's basketball coach. Been with us since October, each and every Wednesday. And I really hope for our viewers and listeners, you got some of that. And to Dave's point, we got to run here because Bison Media Zone's on tap. And we're going to talk about this as well in our next segment. I was flooded with this Sunday night at 8:15 after the game was ended. It's time for a change, that Dave is stuck, and it's not working, and this is what happens. And I hear that. I do. But they are literally a year removed from playing again to go to the NCAA tournament for the 5th year in a row, right? There's no other team in that league that has sniffed that for 5 years running. None. So if you want to say I'm a Bobo for Dave or I'm sticking up for him, fine. I'm presenting the facts there. Now, do I think that they need to change who they get out of the portal? Absolutely. The 2 guys that have come in has been a JUCO guy and a D3 guy. No disrespect to Jeremiah Burke and to Luke Yoder. That's not the kind of player that Eric Henderson got. Hendo got Matthew Moores, the Barnhart kid from Wyoming. Those guys have helped. They have supplemented the roster. Bruner was a transfer to Denver. That, you're not going to get those all the time, but you need to get something. They got nothing out of those guys over the last 2 years. So if you're going to go add the right guys, they also have to play. They have to be good. You know what I mean? They have to add something of value to the roster. That has not happened. So I'm with the fan base there. I will dispute on the, quote unquote lack of success. Yeah, okay, they've had back-to-back losing records. Yep. And I guarantee their conversation with he and his boss that there needs to be some improvement. I would think scheduling goes a long way on that. He and I joke about it, but that Oak Hills Christian game made a lot of people mad. A lot of people that had to pay money to go see it. I think he probably learned that one. I know he was pretty feisty with me when we discussed it. Scheduling is a bear, but that doesn't help either. Got to play some, and they do. They have some good, Illinois State and Southern Illinois are both coming to the Shack this coming year. That's really good. Missouri Valley teams don't travel to play Summit League teams, so that's a good deal. And frankly, Dave said it, we got to get older. We got to stay together and get older. That means people don't leave. Andrew Morgan's a prime example. That was a hot rumor down in Sioux Falls for that young man who's got 1 year of eligibility left, who really, he came on until the last 3 games. And I sit here and tell you there was something we may never know under the surface of what happened with that men's basketball team. We may never know. They got boat raced in 3 straight games to end the season, and I don't think, I'll speak for him here, I don't think Dave was too, not upset, I know he's frustrated, he wants to win, that the season is over, if you get my drift on that they're not playing anymore. I think everybody was ready to be done and move on from this season. By the way, I had a person email me and ask, the portal window for basketball, there's only one of them, unlike football where there's 2. It opens on Monday, this coming Monday, and closes on May 1st. So they have their whole, same with women's basketball as well. So we'll see. Basketball has been on steroids on this long before football got into it. We had transfers happening left and right, and it will be hectic. Something we'll be keeping our eye on beginning on Monday. Before we go, we got to do, before we do what to watch, our poll question today. For my birthday, what would be the best birthday present? Well, we got a vote here. Oh, gosh. 62% with the new set of mustard pants. Well, if that's the case, then we got to appease the fans. 7% on a Mets World Series win? I don't know. 31% of the Jets Super Bowl. And I'll tell you what, I would be unbearable if they actually played in the Super Bowl. No one would want to be around me for that. The money to go for the pants would be going to fund wherever the Super Bowl is. What is it this year, New Orleans? We're not worried about that. Let's do some what to watch before we go out of here. All righty, we got a good sports day on tap. We got college basketball up and down the dial. We got Montana State and Montana coming up 10:30 tonight on ESPN2. First time since 1986, the Brawl of the Wild will be for the NCAA tournament. That's the Big Sky Championship game from Boise. We had the commissioner of the Big Sky join us on Friday's show. That should be a heck of a game. We got 2 weeks out from the start of the season. Kyle's Twins take on the Rays coming up at noon on Bally Sports North. Brooks Lee is still on the main roster. They're trimming roster guys every day. Brooks Lee is still there. I think he's got a heck of a chance to make the opening day roster. And that is not a misprint, folks. The Bison baseball team is playing LSU, the reigning national champs. That's today on ESPN+. Actually, I think that just got moved, by the way, because of weather, to it's now a 4 o'clock start. That's at 4 o'clock on ESPN+. Also, before we go, tonight, continuing a tradition for us at WDAY, we'll be bringing you the Minnesota 8AA basketball semifinals from Concordia. Here's our lineup tonight on WDAY 2. Pelican Rapids and East Grand Forks will play the first game at 6 o'clock. That'll be followed by about 7:45 with Park Rapids and Wadena Deer Creek. Myself and Craig Irwin will be on the call. Can't wait to get over to Concordia tonight. It's going to be loud. The band's going to be there. It's going to be packed. First time since 2020 that the boys tournament, the day before the world ended, we'll be having high school hoops over at Concordia. So you can check that out tonight at 6 and at 7:45. That's on WDAY 2. That's the True Crime Network. It's available on Midco, Sparklight. You got it over the air, and also you can stream it on WDAY+. Our thanks to Drew Trafton, to Greg Pruitt, and to Dave Richmond for joining us. Thanks so much, everybody, for reaching out for the birthday wishes as well. That was awesome. When we come back, Bison Media Zone. We put a bow on the Bison women's season, potentially chat some wrestling and a bunch more. Hot Mike, back tomorrow. Bison Media Zone, up next.